Hello, everyone. This is Juana from Photrek. Today, I'm with Igor Oliveira. He's a very important part of our team at Photrek. And for this quarter's newsletter, we wanted to talk about Igor's great achievement. He just finished his master's degree. And so we wanted to explore a little bit about what he presented for his dissertation. So, hi, Igor. How are you?
Yeah, so thank you, Juana. Hello, everyone. I am so happy that I got my master dissertation. So it was very exciting to do that research. And there is a lot of connection also with the Photrek because my master is about the complex systems and the social physics and economic physics. So we use, sociology, psychology, economy, computer science, mathematics, and physics to investigate and understand social and economic system. So it's very interesting. It's a very interdisciplinary area of study. So you can study how people vote and how people buy and sell assets in the financial market and much more. So that's exciting.
Beautiful. Very cool.
Okay, so my master is about the cooperative behavior and affinity effects in the majority vote opinion dynamic. So I studied here two problems in my master. Okay, so the first problem is I investigate how cooperative behavior impacts the opinion dynamics of society. How cooperation will change the way we behave as a society. And the second problem is I consider a model of a real social network like Facebook, like Instagram, and so on. Because we already have a model to do that, but it's not perfect. So I improved the model we already have. And with that, I studied what's the impact of these networks in the way we behave. So there's two problems here that I consider to investigate.
Very cool.
All right. So my master is in that field of complex system, and it's a vast area of research you can do from animals and also from people and much more. In general, you have a big number of particles of individuals of animals that are interacting together and they have that complex behavior. Okay. So they have a lot of properties. For example, they can be highly non-linear. So very small changes can cause very big effects in that system. So, for example, you can have one car that's not moving, and that car will affect a lot of people. It will impact the entire city. It can
A lot of
change your
road
life.
rage. Hmm.
Exactly. So, complex systems are very interesting because they are very unpredictable. You don't know what will happen. And in that area of complex system, we have social physics and economic physics. So here in social physics, we will use concepts and ideas from physics to investigate social system. So that's like a crazy idea, like how can you apply physics to investigate people? But it turns out that's possible. And with that, we can get surprising results. And so, to do that, we need to consider the experiments from the real world, so we have a good model of how people behave. So here we have an experiment of neuroscience Gregory Bell. And in that experiment, they show you two objects here. And these objects, they can be the same or not. And sometimes you have some rotation of the same object. And sometimes it's very obvious to see they are not the same object, or maybe they are the same. And you need to decide if they are the same or not. However, before you decide, you see what's the opinion of another group of people. So here, for example, everyone is saying they are the same. So after that, you need to decide they are the same or they are not the same. And what Gregor found is that 41% on average of the people agreed with the majority, even when what they were saying was completely wrong, completely incorrect. So what that experiment show is that people are not fully rational, Actually, we are very susceptible to peer pressure, to group pressure. What
Right.
our friends and our family say is very important to us. We are very emotional. And it is interesting because maybe you are thinking that, maybe they are just saying that, but they are not just saying, because Gregor did that experiment. He used that fMRI. So he used the functional magnetic resonance imaging to show what's happening inside the brain of the people, right? And this shows that when people agree with the majority, we have a change in the occipital parietal network of the brain. And that is the area of the brain responsible to perception of reality, of how we see the things. So
Wow.
when you agree with the majority, they are saying, oh, they are the same object. And you see, no, they are not the same. But then you agree, okay, they are the same. Then your brain is changing to agree with them. So it's not just you saying, your brain is actually changing at the same time. On the other hand, what happens if you disagree with them? If you disagree, you will have activation of your amygdala. And the amygdala is the center of stress in the brain. So if you disagree with the people, you can feel in harm, you can feel dangerous. It's not cool. So that shows that we have a big force that compels us to agree with the majority of my friends and the majority of my family. So we are not purely rational. Uh, okay, so I often ask myself why that happens. And the answer is because in the majority of our history, we lived as hunters and gatherers. So in the past, in that ancient history, it was so important to be in group because if you were alone, you could really die. The world was very dangerous. So our brain learned that, and I find it beautiful because today the brain creates the sensation of hunger to communicate the body need for food. So in the same way, the body creates that sensation of loneliness to communicate the need of social connection. Because
Right.
the brain understands that when we are together with another people, then we are safe.
Right.
So when we disagree with the majority of the people, the brain understands we are alone. So we feel that activation of the amygdala. We feel that stress. So we are compelled, we are driving uh, to agree with what the people are saying, even if that's wrong.
Yep.
So to me, that's very scary because, here it can be easy to see if they are not the same object. Okay, it is on an object, right? However, in the real world, the question we have to answer, they are so much complex. We need to decide uh, how I will vote, what I will buy, and the people are influencing us. And often we did not realize that we are being influenced by another people. So that's very strong. So that is so strong, though we have one data here, even more scale. So the mortality risk of chronic loneliness, it is equivalent of taking 15 cigarettes per day. So that's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
That's
Our
crazy.
body really, really needs that social connection.
Yep.
Okay, so that change, so much thing we know about being human, because we think that being human is about being rational and so on, but it is not. So classical economists have that assumption that we are rational, fully 100% rational, but that is not right. Instead, what happens is we can have that panic bubbles, we can have irrational behavior because we are really emotional. we
Mhm.
tend to agree with the people. But we did not like that idea, right? I don't want to say that I agree with the people are saying. So everyone want to say they are a non-conformist, but then they all agree they are non-conformist. Yeah, so it is human nature. Yeah, we need to understand, we need to accept that we are not really independent, you know. So that's very important to model how people really behave in reality. So there is that comic here, for example, uh, that's so interesting about modeling the financial market. So it's very common. You have some message like, I've got a stock here that could really excel. One man say, they're not the same. Really excel, excel, sell. Then everyone is sell. Everyone is in panic. But then there is another message. This is madness. I can't take it anymore. Goodbye. Okay. And then goodbye. Bye. Bye. Everyone like bye. Okay, so that irrational behavior is very important to model how people really behave in the real world. So that is what my dissertation is about. So actually, it's very simple to consider that because luckily we have a physical system that is very close to that. Really, a physical system, magnetic materials. How come? Okay, I will explain. So if you have a magnetic material, you can have a spin. So you can have a spin up or you can have a spin down. Okay. And what happens is that that spin, they tend to point in the same direction of the majority of the neighbors, right?
Mhm.
So that's very similar to what happens in society.
Right.
You have one opinion and you have the tendency to have the same opinion of the majority of your friends and family. So it's like you can model society like a magnetic material. It's like a crazy idea. Yeah.
Wow.
But that gives great results. With that, you can model how people vote and how people buy and sell. So the basic idea is that you have a probability of disagreeing with the majority of your friends and your family, and else you will agree with them with social validation. So that's very simple model, but you need to apply that to everyone in a society. So everyone is doing that, and what you have when you consider the entire society is very complex behavior. Okay, so for example, you want to say something?
No, no, I said beautiful.
Okay. So to study how people behave, we can consider the magnetization. So the magnetization is the consensus level of the society. Okay. So if the magnetization is close to one, then you have a consensus. So everyone agree with each other. And if the magnetization is close to zero, then you have a dissensus. So half of society has one opinion and another half has another opinion. So for example, half of the people want to vote in the situation party and another half want to vote in the opposition party. So if the magnetization is close to zero, then one election would be very hard. And what is interesting is, so here I am changing the side of the society, okay?
Mhm.
So for example, you can see that green one, you can have a very small society. So I am increasing here the probability of the people disagree with the majority of their friends and their family. So you can see the magnetization is decreasing, right? And that's okay because people are disagreeing with each other. And so the magnetization, the consensus will decrease.
Right.
But you can see the consensus is decreasing uh, basically linear, right? However, if you increase the size of society, see what happens. The magnetization suddenly decreases very
Right.
fast. You can see that.
Yeah.
So that is a non-linear, that's a complex behavior because now
Right.
you have a lot of people, and because of that, you can have unpredictable behavior. So it's very hard to predict that behavior here.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we call a phase transition. So here, everyone agree with each other, everyone is in peace, and here, war. So you transition between them pretty fast now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that's one very complex behavior we have here.
yeah.
And so to do that, in my research, I also consider here how cooperation will affect that. So I have a society here, and I will assume that a fraction of the individual will be cooperative. So that means they will have a higher probability of agreeing with their friends and their family to support them. So it's like people are trying to do a decision, but that's hard because everyone is disagreeing with each other. So
Mm-hmm.
these cooperative individual, they will try to increase the consensus. They will try to support the idea of their friends and their family. So what's happened? Uh, Look at that. Here, oops, oh my God. So here I show the society, and here everyone can have two opinions. You can have a black opinion or a white opinion. That could be in how who you can vote, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
everyone who is black, they want to vote on the same people, and everyone who is white, they want to vote on the same people. And what's very interesting, you can have that social bubbles. You can see. So in that social bubbles, everyone agree with each other. And people tend to agree with that. So it's very nice how you can see that behavior here. And if you increase the fraction of cooperative individuals, so here no one is cooperative, okay? And here half of society is cooperative, and now here everyone is cooperative. So you
Mm-hmm.
can see that big white cluster is increasing because the people now is agreeing with more with each other. So you have a giant social bubble, right, of people agreeing.
It's not that the black is them disagreeing and the white is them agreeing. Is that what it is? Or it's just that the black is no opinion yet, but it's converting to agreeing?
Oh, yeah, black is one opinion and the white is
Okay.
another opinion. So
Okay.
what's happening is uh, more
Majority is
people,
becoming the white.
exactly, exactly. People are becoming more white. They are changing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
opinion. So they are
Mm-hmm.
agreeing more with each other because of cooperation.
Gotcha.
And well, so there is one critical point here. Uh, for example, here, you can see that you have the magnetization decrease very fast, right? So that point when that happens is the critical point. And the critical point is a separation. Before that point, the majority of people agree with each other, so we have peace. And beyond that point, we have a war. People
Mm-hmm.
disagree with each other. And so it's very interesting also. Uh, you can map these critical points, is what I have here. So I can say society will be in an organized state, or if society will be in a state of polarization.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna ask,
here,
is that what polarized means? Like if they're not conforming to the same thing, then they're polarized to not necessarily one other thing, but maybe many different other opinions that are just not that same one opinion.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's the polarization. So,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, here in the white region, society is a polarization state. So, if we do an election here, that election would be very, very hard because the people are disagreeing a lot with each other.
Yeah.
However, if you are below the curve, if you are here, for example, then the election would be not so hard because now you have a majority. So you
Yes.
can have a map of society. So that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can map the behavior of a society because
Yeah.
it's very hard to predict how one individual will behave, like me or you. But if you consider a big number of individuals, then we can predict how that big number, how that big group will behave. So
Right.
that's awesome. And we can also do a lot of calculation. I will not show here. We can also predict, the consent level, and you can get a mathematical formula for the critical point. Yeah, so that's crazy. You can do mathematics with the people.
Well,
Now, there is one very interesting idea, one very interesting question. Did you ever wonder uh, why we have a cooperation? Why cooperation behavior exists at all? A lot of science ask about that because it is hard to explain sometimes why there is cooperation in society or between animals. Because
hmm
when you are cooperative, you sacrifice yourself to help another people.
right.
So that's hard to explain. But here I make a physical argument to explain that.
Wow.
Okay, how is that? It's about entropy production. So entropy is a very fundamental concept in physics because it's connected to the second law of thermodynamics. And the second law of thermodynamics says that the entropy of the universe is increasing. Okay, so that's very important to understand how things happen. So, for example, here the entropy. Oops, wait. Okay, so here the entropy is increasing. Okay,
hmm
and here the entropy is decreasing. So that explains why you don't see that in your life. You can see that happen.
Right. Right.
Okay, so that applies to everything. For example, your coffee. Your coffee is with a lot of temperature right now. It's warmer than your environment, and the heat from your coffee is flowing to your environment. All right, and that happens in one way. So I am showing here three ways that could happen. You can have the heat flowing just on the sides, for example, and you can see the heat flowing to the coffee. So that would be crazy. So like your coffee is increase the temperature out of nowhere.
Right.
That does not happen. And you can see what really happens in reality. The heat is flowing out from your coffee to the environment. So that's what really happens. So, and that happens because in that way, we maximize the entropy production that's happening with your coffee. So entropy explains why things happen the way they happen. Okay, so what's the idea here is that you can calculate the social entropy production. Yeah, so that's crazy. You can calculate the entropy production of a social system. And what
Wow.
I show here is that when you have some fraction of society is cooperative and another fraction is not cooperative, then you maximize the entropy production of the system. So what that says is you need a mixture of cooperative people and not cooperative people to increase the entropy production of society. So that's why in the real world we have that. Some people are cooperative and some people are not cooperative because that will increase the entropy production. And maybe you ever wonder, how would it be great if everyone would be cooperative, right? That would be perfect, like heaven.
Yeah. It would
Uh,
be amazing.
yeah, however, that does not maximize the entropy production. So it's like a natural explanation here why can't everyone be cooperative. So that's profound, but at the same time, that's deep. Uh, if everyone is not cooperative, that does not maximize the entropy production either. So that explains we need a balance between
Nice.
cooperation and no cooperation. So it's like a physical argument, a physical explanation to explain why we have cooperation in a society. Yeah. So That was pretty amazing to find that. I feel
Absolutely.
very excited. Okay, so that was the first part of my dissertation. And now I will show the second part, it's a bit shorter, okay? But it's about the network. So here I discussed the interaction dynamics and how people interact. However, uh, another constituent to define a complex system is the network of the system. And it's very common in the literature to consider scale-free network from Albert Barbaro. And that scale-free network, they are so powerful because they are present in the World Wide Web, in the brain network, in the protein interaction network, and much more. And
Right.
they can also model uh, social networks like Facebook, Instagram, and so on. However, they are not perfect. So, for example, you can see here that uh, the scale-free network does not capture the behavior in that fraction, in that portion here of the graph. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So, so the real data has some curvature here. And the equation of the scale-free network is completely linear. So that's not perfect. So how can we improve that? Okay, so to do that, I defined here a new model to model how these real social network like Facebook and Instagram, they really are. So to do that, I need to consider the affinity between people, how people connect with the people who are similar to them. So I
Right.
modified the model here to show that. So, for example, uh, you can have one very famous people in your city, like for example, your president, your mayor, and so on. So you have a high probability of connect with that people. All right. Now, um, you can also have people who are close to you, but they are not popular. For example, your friends and your family, your mother, your father, your brother, and so on. So you also have a high probability of connect with them, right? However, uh, you still have good connection probability of connect with someone who is famous but not close to you. For example, maybe a Britannic rock star or something like that.
Hmm.
But if someone is not famous, they also not close to you, for example, a Eskimo, then you have the zero probability of connecting with them, right?
Right.
So in that model, I consider a competition between popularity and the local effect. So if someone is very popular, you increase the probability of connect with them. Like
Right.
in Instagram, you want to follow people who are famous, right? But you also want to follow people who are close to you. So I have that competition here. And what happens is, if you consider that to create a network, now you can see the curvature I showed to you in the real data. So that model can model better what is the behavior of real social network like Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so here my question now. How that network impacts how people behave? How
Hmm.
people will enter in a polarization state or not, for example. So to do that, I calculated here the magnetization. So that is a heat map to show the magnetization here. So here we have a state of peace when everyone agree with each other. And above that, the right region, we have again war. Everyone disagree with each other. And what I found here is very interesting is because if I increase the alpha, I will increase how the network connect people who are similar. That's what happens in Instagram, for example. We connected a lot of people who are similar to us, people who think like us, you know. So when we increase that in the society, in that social system, we will facilitate society to enter in a polarization state. So if you ever wonder when you enter Instagram and a lot of people are arguing with each other, they
Yes.
are disagreeing with that, it's because of that. The structure of the network, the topology of the connection, how people connect in social media, only that will increase the probability of the people entering in a state of polarization. So
Interesting.
that's what I found here.
Is it because they
So
would like to cater to as many, like they want to cast the net really wide, that they attract a lot of these people, but in turn, that's causing it to become more polarizing because of all these different people coming in and not agreeing with each other. Wow.
exactly.
It's a big ethical AI question is how do you defend against polarization when it comes to creating the networks? But we'll have a short discussion after you're done.
So exactly that. You got it right. And it's very complex about understanding how these networks can facilitate or not the polarization state. But it's just that when you increase the probability of people connecting with the people who are similar to them, you create more social bubbles, and that
Mhm.
fragilizes the network, right? Yeah, so that's it. That's that the main result of my dissertation. So if you have some question, I am here.
Definitely not just it. My brain went so many places. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is like since these are obviously outcomes of well-defined research like what you've done, and I guess this could feed into, you know, our work with Photrek is just like how do we now protect ourselves against being exploited this way? Like if you're saying us humans can only be conformists or completely polarized in a sense, and because we understand this, like, how do you think our work or your work with what we're doing with Photrek feeds into at least mitigating some of that when it comes to at least like the governance stuff that we're doing? Or what solutions can you think of that we could do?
Yeah. Well, it's very exciting because consider people behavior is so complex, right? So yeah, for example, reputation could help with that because we could incentivize the positive behavior. However, what I show here, for example, that figure here, is that just by the structure of the social network, you can also facilitate the people to disagree or not. So you
Hmm.
also need to consider how are we designing our network? So, for example, in deep funding or in singularity net, when we have that system of how people will connect, how people will comment, and so on, all of that will already influence how people will think and how will they behave. And often we did not realize that because we think that we are independent. I think that I am rational, but I am not. I am not rational. Okay, so I am completely dependent of how the people, what the people are saying, and how the system is. So with that, we need to understand what we need to do and what we need not to do. For
Right.
example, with that, we can design better systems, for example, to help people achieve consensus. So, for example, if we use that, we know that we have an efficient model, a real model of how real people behave. So we can investigate how that will affect the behavior of the society, of this group of people. If I change deep funding in some way, for example, if I change the order of the comment in a proposal, can I change how people will think?
Right.
So, for example, it's very common to show the most likely comment in YouTube, for example. But maybe that's not good. Maybe you
Hmm.
need to show random comment instead of showing the most likely comment. Because if you show the most likely comment to everyone, then everyone can agree with that. And they think they are agreeing because they really agree, but they are not.
They're just
Often,
following what's popular.
Exactly. It's just social validation, you know?
Yes,
And social
exactly.
validation is so common because of what I show you in the comment. Like here, when everyone say they are
Yeah,
non-conformist, but they are conformed with everyone.
yeah.
So we need to design a system that helps to the people, you know, a system where you can have healthy discussion about everything.
Yeah,
And
and I
that,
think like sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Uh no, just like to build on top of that, like the importance of building spaces where it's not certain people making those big decisions. Like one of the biggest um issue that came out is when the product manager or some product manager at Facebook created the like button, not thinking about the repercussions that was going to create, you know? So maybe
Yes, it's,
we design a system of like, how can we bring in as many different voices to make those certain decisions in a way that still encourages difference in opinion without triggering that fear that you were talking about. And this is something that I feel like is so crazy about all of this is how layered it is, right? Because if we're saying like our most primal instinct, our drive is to connect and to feel safe, then how
yes,
can we
yes.
still empower our individualism and our decision making and our like thought leadership? And I think you're right. It boils down to like how can we create this safe environment that balances between the two? And that's what I think a lot of our work at Photrek is around. And then when we maybe this is a follow-up discussion, but when we bring AI into this and how it could fit in, and is that maybe the solution to as well helping with that whole validation aspect that you can't maybe get from a lot of other people, but now you have your AI buddy. How is that going to affect societies and connections in general? Maybe it's something we need to find out, or maybe we can model it somehow, just so we can predict the harm it can create. But yeah, I don't know if you have any closing remarks. This was really fascinating, Igor. You are incredibly. I learn so much from you all the time, and I love working with you. But I don't know if you have anything you wanted to close this off with.
Yeah, so thank you so much. That was great. Discuss that with you. And you did a lot of great question now in the end. I totally agree with that. So it's a big question now that all systems now, they are focused on popularity, you know, on extremely popular opinion. However, that is wrong. We need to create a safe environment to everyone when we improve the collective decision. That's the right way to go. So we need to change what we are doing. And what you said about the AI is also so interesting because now a lot of people are interacting more and talking more with the AI. And we don't know what are the consequences. And what you said about the validation, like maybe I don't get validation from my friend and my family, so I can get validation from AI. So people are using AI friends, AI boyfriend and girlfriend. We don't know what are the consequences. Well, uh, I mean, when that will stop, or what that will cause in society as a whole? Because society is a complex system, it's highly unpredictable, so we don't
Yes.
know. So I am looking forward to understand that. And all of
Yeah,
that question can help us shape a better governance to
absolutely.
everyone.
I mean, in some respects, it's almost like if people don't feel safe sharing their opinions and their questions to humans, maybe they're feeding this kind of like secret knowledge or thought to the AI. So now maybe the AI has this data on these all these differences in opinions that can't be naturally shared because of a fear of like not being involved or like being isolated. So it'd be very interesting to
Yeah,
understand that dynamic.
exactly. We don't
Awesome.
know what will
Okay.
happen.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thanks so much, Igor. I really appreciate it. And everyone, stay tuned for our next newsletter as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wow.